first item, which will be rendered by our DVC for teaching and learning, Prof. M. Davanda Maselesele. The floor is yours, Prof. Can we give her a round of applause?
Siyabulela. What do you say?
Siyabingelela.
Siyabingelela. What do you respond?
Oh, siyabulela, siyabonga. If I'm not mistaken, siyabonga.
Siyabonga, siyabulela. Good morning. Mpumalanga. Molweni. Ninjani? Limacheroni. Goeiemôre. Minjani? Hifukile. Abusheni. Good morning, colleagues. It really gives me a great pleasure to address you this morning. It is indeed an honor for me to talk to you during this campaign of the language. You have written it as Language Policy Campaign Launch Program. We are proud as Africans to be who we are. We are so unapologetic that we are who we are. And that is the principle of who we are as University of Mpumalanga. Who says we are Africans in Africa? And when we are African, we do what the Africans do. Not only that we are located in Africa, but this is who we are. We live according to the principles of who we are as an African community. And therefore, we even embrace the spirit of Ubuntu. I'm here to just say, I'm here to welcome you to this lovely campus. And I see our keynote speaker has just walked in, Professor Langa. I want to welcome you to our lovely campus. And I believe you really rested at our lovely hotel, because this is who we are. We believe in excellence, and you have experienced that excellence in the true sense of the word. I believe so. Colleagues, I want to say to you, as we welcome you to this very important event, we want to say as a university, we are transforming our academic project. In the process of transforming our academic project, our African language or our Africanness is what we want to transform into and say, of course we know we have been doing this, but now we want to make it very official, that we know we integrate all our IKA's activities that we do on campus. Our curriculum transformation is one of the areas that we are going to focus on. And for this morning, I want us to look at the issue of integrating African epistemologies in our curriculum. And that is what we are doing. As I welcome you, I felt it is important just to alert you that this is the direction we are taking. You know, we have our module, Mpumalanga in context. You know what Mpumalanga in context talks to, and that is part of our curriculum transformation. You cannot transform your academic project if you do not know who you are, you don't know your history, you don't even know where you would not even know where you're going, because you would be confused of your own identity. And this is why our university is very unapologetic in offering that program, that module which we call Mpumalanga in context for the whole year. And those who attend, those who are teaching will agree with me, or that module is actually grounding our students in how Africa and our being Africanness, not only about Mpumalanga, but about us as Africans. And we also bring them to mind, our students, into understanding that whatever they are going to be taught in every area of their specialization, they should not forget their African context and their African way of doing things. And with that, you apply that knowledge in whatever area that you are studying. You know, we have agriculture. We've been planting, we've been farming for ages until this Western, whatever that you call it, came on board. But we are still plowing and planting as Africans, the African way. And we have seen that our way of doing things are more healthier than, I don't want to say than whose, but you know what I'm talking about. And we are also now, unfortunately, selling our own African ways of doing things free of charge, and to those that will then own and take up. So it's high time that we start doing things for ourselves and we write our own history for those who are doing history, so that no one writes for you without your own permission, without even understanding the context where we are. So it is important. This is very critical for UMP. And I'm grateful that Siabuswa campus, as I also welcome you, I'm grateful that we are working together as a unit to ensure that we do not live out on what we know best. And with that, we know our African knowledge will actually grow if we as academics start embedding whatever that we are teaching and allowing that we incorporate our African ways of doing things. We will also, dispel the myth that our way of doing things is barbaric. You know, that has been your practice. They would tell you, as a health worker in my case, we know how to treat measles, to prevent it actually, before it even happens. We know how to treat, early childhood diseases. We know how to support a woman during pregnancy. We know how to care for each other. I mean, even circumcision, it's an African way of doing things. So, in other areas of learning, that's when people will always say, these are barbaric ways. In health, they will tell you infection and all this and all. We know how to even treat infection. Our water and salt has been our practice all the time, that we prevent infection in that way. So I'm saying, once as academics, we start working together and start bringing our ways of doing things as Africa, as Africans together, we will realize that we have a very important knowledge that we can actually use to benefit our own communities and also improve on what we do, because all these knowledges needs to be researched on and they also need to be worked on and to be improved on. And I think with this, we are going to achieve that which you want to achieve. I've been told that I should also talk about our language policy that has just been approved. As UMP, we know where we are. And in terms of our languages, the university has approved from council. I mean, the consultation was done with Senate, with faculty boards, until we got to a level where the policy was approved. The 2 languages have been approved: isiNdebele for Siabuswa campus and Siswati for Mbombela campus. And those who call this university, you will realize that just after the approval of the policy, we now can call and get somebody talks to you in isiNdebele if you are in, you will receive a greeting in isiNdebele if you are in Siabuswa. And then you get a Siswati greeting if you are here at Mbombela. That shows that we are really moving and we are trying to implement what the policy has mandated us to do. In terms of our teaching languages, the language of communication, we are still communicating in English. But where you have programs that you are able to teach and have tutors who speaks isiNdebele at Siabuswa, you are allowed with tutors to do that. But remember, we are not supposed to exclude anyone, as we have the principles of the language policy indicated that we want to collaborate. We also want to include everybody. We want also to acknowledge diversity and ensure that once we speak our languages, we are not excluding anyone. We also agree that those modules that are at risk, the difficult ones, we are starting on trying to translate the glossary of terms first, and as we continue, you would see that here and there, we would actually start improving on our modules that we'll be teaching. So this is only for the other programs that we would be teaching, but we are not actually supposed to teach in a language that will exclude. So it means in a class, you see me, I speak Chivenda. So if I come and sit in your class and you teach in Isindebele, then it will be a problem. But if you are having a small group discussion with tutors who speaks Isindebele and the students who speaks Isindebele, you are allowed to continue doing that conversation in Isindebele. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because if you go to Univen, you will find them speaking Chivenda, maybe, and also maybe Xitsonga. So we are trying to ensure that wherever we see the larger the numbers of people who speak a certain language, we focus on that. That is how this policy was approved, and that is what we looked at in terms of our implementation of the language. We will be growing, but we're still saying our language of instruction is English, according to the policy, and we are saying sign language, where necessary, will always be used where needs arise. In meetings, we will also continue to speak in English, but where we find that we have meetings of the people who speak a common language, there is no problem. So that is in brief what the policy says. I'm sure the policy has been circulated to all of you. You look at it and see the progress that UMP is making, and ensure that we make sure that we have those guidelines that will actually embrace everyone, so that we don't feel offended by the interactions that we would have with different people, because we are a diverse nation, a diverse university. On that note, I want to say to you, welcome to this activity. I am so grateful that you made time to be here, and I'm hoping that this will also we will build on what we have started, because today is the beginning of the many other things that are coming. You will see even on the signage of the university, you will see here at Mbombela, you will start seeing directions in Siswati, not Chivenda. I almost said Chivenda. So it will be English and Siswati, and then English and Isindebele at Siyabusa. That note, Program Director, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day. Unfortunately, I'll have to leave because I have another commitment. But you must know that we are seriously transforming our academic project, and in terms of our language, this is very critical, because we can't speak that we are Africans when we don't even have just one African language that we're speaking about. Remember, I'm not talking about the languages that you are taught in the classroom in your specialization. This is about the language within the whole university. So I hope that will clarify, because that is something else. In your specialization, it's a different ball game altogether. Thank you very much.
Siyabonga Professor, siyabonga ngenkulumo yekusivulela lo mhlangano wethu ngetilwimi tethu. Niyasiva Siswati msa. Ngiso leso ke. Ngiyathemba siyeva. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you for reminding us of who we are as UMP and African University, who we are in our curriculum context, who we are as UMP students. We need to know who we are, Simbobani, Sibuyapi. Your language is your culture. Thank you so much.
Siyathokoza uProf Davana Maselesele ngokusivulela kamnandi and ensuring that the university's first language policy has then been approved, and we are still in the process of making sure that we develop it and we make it one of the best across the universities.
The next item, we proceed to the next item. The next item is on the importance of self-identity. Kubaluleka kwekwati imvelaphi yakho, which will be rendered by Likwankosi. Likwankosi, can we give her a round of applause? Aseta ngaphambili.
Sanibonani. Ligama lami ngilikwa Sibongo Nwakankosi. Ngithe ukukhuluma about kubaluleka kwemvelaphi yakho, which is the importance of which is the importance of self-identity. Angithanze ngokuqala kubonga leli thuba leli labangiphe lona ukuthi nami namuhla ngikhone ukukhuluma phambi kwenu. Ngingumfundi la esikolweni ngenda i-masters in Siswati language. Okay. Ngizoqala nje ngokuthi ngifuna ukuchaza kabanzi ngale sithombe lesi sami. Lesithombe sami lesi simayelana ngayo imvelaphi yemuntu ukuthi umuntu ubuya kuphi. Njengoba sibona ukuthi kadzeni boma kwethu bebaphekela phasi timvombi tigcoka ngalendlela, uyabona. Bese nginibingelele bekunene. Okay, ngizocala ngokuchaza ukuthi kahle kahle imvelaphi iyini, noma what is identity. Umuntu angeke abe ngumuntu ngokuthi angadi ukuthi ubuyaphi. Lokubalekile ukuthi umuntu aladi ilwimi lakhe. Njengoba mina ngibona nje ngithathe isinqumo sokuthi ngifunze ngalo lolwimi lami, ngiphinze ngente elicwaningo ngalo lolwimi lami bekunene. So njengoba sichaza ukuthi imvelaphi ichaza ukuthi ungubani, uphumaphi nekuphila kwakho, ifaka ekhathi emasiko, luhlanga nebunguwe bakho. Okay, ngifake nje lesithombe lesi ngoba ngifuna kubekisa ngaso ukuthi umuntu akatifananise njengesihlahla. Yabona isihlahla lesinganato timbanze asingeke sikhone kuma. Uyabona? Umuntu makakhula ukhuliswa ngiloku la kumunye ebeleni lama kwakhe. Lokusho ukuthi lokulesikufundzile sisesebancane lulwimi lakho lokhule ngalo libalekile tifananise nesihlahla ungadikhohlwa ukuthi ungubani futhi ubuyaphi. Njengoba bese ngichazile bekunene ukuthi lesihlahla lengisivetako lapha ukuthi sichaza ukuthini. Sichaza ukuthi mawungumuntu kubalekile ukuthi timbanze takho utahati lokuthi ubuyaphi uqhamukaphi futhi. Kubaleka kwemvelaphi bese ngichazile bekunene ukuthi imvelaphi mawungumuntu mawudada ukuthi ubuyaphi uba nalokutethemba, uyabona. Mina nje mangifika la esikoleni bamvula abaningi nabangibuta ukuthi ufundzela ini, mangithi hawu ngenta i-masters in Siswati bathi hawu kukisaphi lokho, uyabona nje bathi uyaphi ngaloko. So ngaze usuke ekhaya utofunza nje lulwimi lakho lokhule ngalo. Ngiphose ngathi amen ngiyaxolisa. Kuthi bekunene sukela ngimncane ngikhule ngiyithanza lemvu nasesikolweni ngikhule ngifunza ngako. Kepha mangifika la evarsity kufike kwashintsha ngoba mabasifundisa basebenzisa singisi kakhulu. Kepha ngiyavisisa ukuthi kungani kungoba singebamvu sonke sinemvelaphi lehlukene. Ngekusho kwa Eric Erikson bengifundisa psychology, naye Eric Erikson nguye lo ngicugcutele ukuthi ngibe ngilomuntu lengiwe namuhla. Eric Erikson wenda licwaniko lakhe lelimkhombisa ukuthi umuntu longayadi imvelaphi yakhe uvamise kungakhuli ngendlela lefanele. Lokusho ukuthi ngesingisi i-mental what yakhe ayibi kahle, uyabona. Na James umcwaningo ngeminyaka wa 2000 umcwaningo lomkhulu webucwaningo bemlomo uthi lulwimi luyindlela lesitshela ukuthi imvelaphi yethu kumele ukuthi sigcine. Lokusho ukuthi nabo laba kadzeni babonile ukubaleka kwelwimi lethu. Phela lemvu lengikhuluma kokufuna kube khona laba ifakazelako bekunene. Labanye babhali bami ngungwathiyonge na Chinua Achebe ngifunze ngaye etuke esingisi mangenda i-undergraduate ngenda ama-undergraduate studies ukhulume ngekubaleka kwelulwimi ngokuthi lulwimi lusita ekuveteni umcondvo welusuko futhi lusisekelo sokubamba umhlaba. Ngungwathiyongo ke yena lengeke ngakubamba nje ngaye ukuthi ngesingisi wathi our language is a tool of colonization. Njobe sisho ukuthi ubonisa kulwimi ukuthi alunakugcinwa nje ngokuthi lukhunywe kuphela kodwa lulwimi luyimpilo nesusekelo lemlamvo wethu. Nalebe baphile emamvulo bakubonile kubaleka kwemvelaphi yethu. Bese ngichazile ukuthi ngakimi ukuthi ngize ngibe la ngikhona khona namuhla yini lokungicugcutele. Senginikhuthaza ninebekunene emavami okugcina ukuthi ngicela ukuthi singakhohlwa ukuthi sibuyaphi. Kona siyathi ukuthi English ngiyo i-language lokumele ukuthi sonke sivisisane ngayo masikhuluma emaveni la ehlukene. Kepha nje ngiyacela ukuthi singakhohlwa ukuthi sibuyaphi siphinze futhi sibone ukuthi silibone lulwimi lethu ukuthi sibalekile ngoba lisichaza kabanti ukuthi sibuyaphi siqhamukaphi kanjalo kanjalo. Bengicela ukuthi nala sikolweni bekunene ningapheli mandla phela abafundi asibuyeni sigcwale ngala ku masters in Siswati ngoba lelinani lincane ngiyanithembisa sekusele kancane sekutawulunga. Niyabona sekuyashintsha mse bayasibona sesiyabonakala. Angeke ngithande ukudla isikhathi ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga Likhwa, asiphinze simshayele tandla. Likhwa has reminded us of who we are, sibuyaphi. Nakakhuluma nje ukuthi sitifanekise njengesihlahla in agriculture kune integration lapha ngithi ukuthi nasikhuluma ngetimbanje tesihlahla i-origin leyo just like us where we originated. We shouldn't forget about who we are and our background. Siyabonga Likhwa. Sitawuchubeka ngeluhlelo lwethu. I-item lelandzelako will be rendered by Dr. Madiope and is based on the purpose. Why are we gathered here? Dr. Madiope will unpack that for us. Over to you, Dr. Madiope. Can you give her a round of applause?
Good morning. Mpumalanga. Sawubona. That's how far I can go. But slowly but sure I'm getting there. Professor Khumalo, our colleagues from different faculties, dear students, staff, thank you so much for being here today. I think this is one of the events that actually is going to be turning the history of this university around. And ask me why do I say that? It's because we all now have right in our mailboxes the University of Mpumalanga language policy. And I think this is a very great step for the university. And Prof, if I can touch on the fact that when I joined the university last year, the policy was non-existent. But I want to acknowledge all those hands, and I'm going to introduce those people who actually made it happen, that we are here today. We have Ntate Atenkosi, who was part of the task team. And Ntate Pete Masilela, Mayor Cynthia Ndlovu. We have Dr. Buddha, who is not here with us today, attending one of the language conferences. And we work collaboratively with the DVC Teaching and Learning and the DVC Professor Mbewe. Professor Mbewe, the DVC engagement. So they actually walked the road with us. And then we also have from the Siabuswa campus, we had Mr. Gianni, who was a real driver. The passion of Mr. Gianni in African languages is really amazing. And we thank you very much, Ntate Gianni. Ntate Gianni is based at the Siabuswa campus. And with Mr. Gianni, if you don't do anything that is related to languages, you die. And if you don't do anything related to Isindebele, Siswati, or whatever, he is going to be on your case. Right, so I just thought maybe I must acknowledge the people who started the process. And I must say, I'm happy to say that this is the team that actually gave me space and peace to lead the project until we delivered. We went to a stage where we actually had to submit a proposal, which was a national proposal for the implementation of the national language policy. So our policy is actually aligned to the national language policy. And we are indeed humbled to say that UMP has been funded to implement the language policy by DHED. And this is through the efforts of this whole team that I've just mentioned now, in them sitting down around the table and making sure that the proposal is written and finally approved and funded. And we are happy today that we have funds that can assist us to implement the policy. And on that note, let me quickly highlight why I'm here and why is everybody here. Colleagues, you might all believe, I think you all believe that language is a tool to communication. It's a tool that assists us to identify who we are. If you don't know your language, it means you don't know yourself. You don't know where you're coming from. So we are here today to reaffirm that we really know our identity. We know who we are. And that is why we are advocating for language, our languages, in particular African languages. We are here today because we actually want to advocate multilingualism and intellectualize our African languages within research, within teaching, and within engagement. The DVC, if I have to quote her, she indicated how the university is going to be integrating languages within teaching and learning. And I think the same song that the DVC Teaching and Learning has sung here this morning, the DVC engagement is singing that, and so is the DVC research singing the same song. So we are singing from one hymn book, which is our UMP language policy and our UMP language implementation plan. And we are here today again to encourage one another and to participate and give feedback on what actually needs to be done in terms of languages, in particular multilingualism within the university. So I believe we are not just here to listen to whoever is here, but we are here again to say, what are we going to do in terms of multilingualism in communication, Mr. Ubisi? What are we going to be doing about language, multilingualism, methodology in research? And I've seen Memnisi there. Memnisi, what are we going to be doing about multilingualism in HR? So you see, we are not talking about multilingualism only for teaching and learning, but it's an institutional imperative that as a university, we implement multilingualism as per institutional policy. And we are here to engage and talk about how do we do that as the university employees. And finally, we are also here to strengthen our commitment to strengthen our commitment in advancing linguistic diversity within our university. And we're also looking at social cohesion and strengthening our priorities, which is more focused into multilingualism. So we are inviting you, colleagues, that we start engaging on multilingualism and look at and embrace our diversity and see how best we can use multilingualism in whatever area we are within the university. On that note, colleagues, I thank you, and let us start the engagement, and I hope our keynote speaker, Professor Khumalo, who is really grounded within this space, will actually give us more guidance on where to go and what to do. On that note, Program Director, thank you very much.
Siyabonga kakhulu Dr. Siyabonga ngekusihlahlela indlela yokuthi kungani sibe la. Why are we here today? Ngiyathemba sonke sesiyati kwekuthi kungani sila. What's the purpose of us being here? It's not only a language thing, it's for all of us to be one and to ensure that we implement the language policy, we implement multilingualism. I like our national anthem. The national anthem yethu concurs to multilingualism. Aiga compose wangelulwimi lunye. This is what is expected of us. Our synergies, uma singena nje la, phuma, sifuna kubona phuma, nangesindebele, esiyabuswa. Kuwo onke ma exit points, akube nesiswati, kube nesingisi, kuma bathrooms, akube nesiswati, kube nesingisi. That is multilingualism. Not only the monolingual perspective, we have to transform from that one. Okay, siyabonga Dr. Asikamshayeli tandla Dr. Asindlalele kangaka purpose. Thank you Dr. Madiope. Our next item will be Imbongo. Okay, in Siswati we say Tibongo. Are you referring to the praise poem, ne? Imbongo. That's multilingualism. Imbongo. It's in the Bele. Tibongo, ngesiswati. Praise poem in English. That item will be rendered by Mahlangu Vuyo Vusi. Asimbetheleni izandla. Over to you, Vusi.
Good morning. Good morning. Lochani. Sanibonani. Dumelang. Abusheni. Igama nginguvuyo wakwaMahlangu ngizonenzela ikondlo yokubonga. Izokukhuluma ngamalimi esikhuluma ngawo la amaningi esiwahlanganisayo imultilingual. Igama imbongi enganasibongo. Lokho akusimhlolo nendlovu yakwazi ukuphila ngaphandle komboko wayo. Ngibani ngilalele lekondlo ngitlole ngehloso inomongo. Bengifisa ukuba sigijimise Nkosi kodwa namhlanje ngibawa ningivumele ngibe sigijimisa amaNdebele njengoba ngithunywe ngiyo lapha. Kuthiwa indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili nami ngize lapha ngizokubuza ngamalimi weSouth Africa kuthi ngelinye ilanga nami ngibe mdosi phambili nakuyindlela ibuzwe kimi. Nina bosolwazi nabonolwazi ngibawa nitshale ilwazi elutsheni ekungithi esisakhulako ukuthi nikwazi ukuba namahlogelo amahle. akhe sishiseni umonyane sitshaleni inthelo lapho khona ilutsha elizako likwazi ukuvuna ilwazi elinothileko nelinabileko sikwazi ukuthuthukisa isikopilo nesikokambiso yethu. Isikokambiso, isikopilo lethu nelwazi liyimvela kancane sihloka umthombo welwazi kuthi isitsho sithi eyomileko iyaziyela emthonjeni nami ngiza ngiyagijima ngiza kini bosolwazi nabonolwazi ngizokuba ulwazi nami ngomile ngibawani ngilayele umthombo welwazi lena imbongo enganasibongo khumbula lokho akusimhlolo nendlovu yakwazi ukuphila ngaphandle komboko wayo ngiyathokoza.
Asimbetheleni izandla. Siyathokoza Vusi, siyathokoza ukusikhumbuza ngokuthi womele ulwazi ibongo zamaNdebele. Siyabonga kakhulu. Sitawuchubeka ke yasivuselela ke itibongo ta Vusi ukuthi somele lwazi ngolulwimi lwethu ngetilwimi tethu. Ngilona loyo unelulwimi lwakhe lwasekhaya asomele lwazi. We have to go down and deep about our languages. Singadiyekeli tife sikhona thina. Okay, the next item will be rendered by ubuciko bomlomo. That is folklore. Ubuhwari bomlomo. Ubuciko bemlomo ngesiswati. Yeah. Umoleshiwe Angel. Nguye ke ozasethulela ubuciko bomlomo.
Maseula Afrika amalimu ngokwahlukahlukana lambizo ngingu Angel wakamleshiwe lo channoke sishaba sekhethu mina ngimrazinyana ophuma phase eMpumalanga kwaNdebele esichabeni esizinze ngamakhosi amabili ngitsho yena uNzunza noMalala sisithaba esizele imirogo angisayiphathike yemlambo irhatsha amanzi ngingayilibala njani ifuyo engangotshani hayi siziphetheke nenhlabani zesithaba ngitsho yena uDokhotere uEsther Mahlangu owaziwa khulu ngelakanaStokana odume khulu ngemgwalo yakhe ngingamlibala njani uDokhotere uNothembi Mkhwebane yena ongumvumi odume khulu ngingamlibala njani uAudrey Gozana ikunza kokwazana yena owathumba uNongorana wendoni wabizwa the Queen of Embracing Culture and Diversity. AmaNdebele aziwa khulu ngemgwalo yabe emihle eminye yawo ngilesi ibona nasingena ngeyege yenyuvesi simaNdebele saziwa khulu ngevunulo yethu ehle emabalabala ngitsho yona imbalo amahabi ingolwane nokhunye okunengi AmaNdebele kusithaba esizikhakhazisako begodu esithanda isiko labo ngitsho yona iminyanya yokwelisa abantwana abesana ukuthombisa abantwana ababentazana ngilindebele begodu ngiyazikhakhazisa ngokuba lindebele ngiyathokoza.
Siyabonga, siyabonga asimbetheleni izandla futhi. uAngel osethulela ngobuciko bemlomo. Ubuciko bemlomo is not outdated. Tinganekwane tiyafundzisa even today. We have to learn from them. Siyabonga kakhulu nokusikhumbuza ngoDokotela Esther Mahlangu abenza okuningi esindebeleni. Le midwebo nithi yini imidwebo ngesindebele? Imingwalo. Imingwalo. Siyabonga, siyabonga, siyabonga. Okay. We will proceed to the next item, which is the introduction of the keynote speaker, which will be rendered by Ate Nkosi. Over to you, Ate. Asimbetheleni izandla.
In Sepedi, what's this Kaftina, right, Ike? Yeah, but I'll just provide a brief introduction of Professor Langa. Professor Langa is a full professor and the executive director of the South African Center for Digital Language Resources, that is KUSADILA. Also is based at the Northwest University, Potchefstroom. Professor Langa previously served as a director of the language planning and development at the University of KZN. Professor Langa has a PhD in linguistics from the University of Oslo, an MPhil in linguistics from the Cambridge University, a certificate in corpus linguistics from the Tuscan Word Center in Italy. He also completed an Oxford Strategic Leadership Program at Oxford University, SAID Business School, and is part of the Oxford Business Alumni. Professor Langa Khumalo has served in several prominent leadership roles, that is including being the chair of the AU isiZulu Language Commission. He has been the president of the African Association for Lexicography. He is a member of the executive committee of the Digital Humanity. He has a membership in the executive committee of Digital Humanities in Southern Africa. He's also a board member of the African Literary Metadata that is based in Uppsala in Sweden. He has served as the chair of USAF in the Committee of Practice for Teaching and Learning in African Languages. Now, currently, Professor Langa sits in the board in the scientific board of the Center for Advanced Studies of African Society at the University of Western Cape. He's a former language champion of Oxford University Press, that is on the global languages. Now, nationally, Professor Langa has served or has contributed significantly to South Africa's language policy, serving in the DHET, which is the Department of Higher Education and Training, Language Policy Review Working Group, and is currently on the panel or advisory panel for language policy implementation that he is appointed by the Department of Higher Education and Training. Colleagues, without taking your time, Professor Langa is still engaged in academia because currently he is the adjunct professor in the College of Humanities at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, staff and students, allow me to introduce to you Professor Langa Khumalo, who will be providing us a keynote for today. I thank you.
Thank you, Atenkosi, for sparing me the embarrassment. I want to recognize the university leadership in absence here. The language committee that was ably led by my sister there. Colleagues, students, and university professional services. When Mr. Chiana asked me to come and speak, I had many competing interests. Many. And then I remembered that I left a very sad face when I was last here. We had our COPAL meeting right here on this campus. COPAL is the Community of Practice for the Teaching and Learning of African Languages, and it's a substructure of University of South Africa. The Vice Chancellor had actually welcomed us, and we set up a meeting with the DVC of Teaching and Learning, and a few of us, including her, and the leadership of COPAL went to go and discuss why it is important for the university to have its language policy. Today, we are celebrating the fact that we do have, as we've had, the University of Mpumalanga language policy. Now, I have been, you can call them the trenches, for the longest time. While I was at UKZN, when we enforced that the university was going to teach in both English and isiZulu, there was a newspaper headline. I won't mention the paper. It said, "There is a Zulu in my teacup." But it didn't deter us. Today, isiZulu is proudly mediating the teaching and learning and research at UKZN. PhDs are being awarded in isiZulu. Masters, technologies are being developed for and in isiZulu. They have one of the largest parallel corpus in English and isiZulu with over 90,000 parallel sentences. Now, if you're looking at a sentence in English and a sentence in isiZulu, and this is not just a sentence on parallel speech, this is on PhD abstracts, cutting across all disciplinary areas. So it's high-level academic language. I'm going to come into aspects of that because what I wanted to show is that when we introduce African languages into academic spaces such as universities, we are not dumbing down higher education. We are not dumbing down higher education. The fact that she is doing masters in Siswati does not make her scientific rigor in that exercise less than somebody who is doing an MSc in health sciences. If that is the case, then we need to do something about the efficacy of her research and her methodologies. The Germans do every single aspect of their research in Germany. So are the Italians. So are the Norwegians. So are the Japanese. Siswati is not different. Isindebele is not different. isiZulu certainly is showing the way. So when you're sitting here, listening to this, you are on a mission to transform South African academy. Because there is something that we want to unlock when somebody is given the choice, made at the 3rd trimester in their mother's womb, not by some legislation. In the 3rd trimester of your mother, in your mother's womb, that's when your cognitive linguistic ability kick in, because you start connecting, your brain start connecting with your mother tongue, what your mother is speaking. Speech is enabled at that material time. Okay. So language as a choice of teaching and learning is such a travesty, because that choice happens in your growth, in your mother's womb. So when somebody legislates that, no, you're going to be taught in English, that choice is long made for you when you emerge as Umswati, Indebele, Umzulu, etc., etc. So next time you come and speak here, Lekwa, where are you? Come. Next time you come and speak in front of an audience, you are not going to bend as if you are apologizing for speaking in Siswati. You are going to stand firmly on your 2 feet and straight and speak to your audience in Siswati. Because ulim lwako oluncele ebeleni, that you must never be apologetic about. Never. You don't curve as if you're talking to an emperor. You are the emperor or empress. You stand firm. You did well. And I will invite them to give you a round of applause. In my speech, I am going to speak to, I was actually thinking what is going to be relevant to the audience that I'm looking at, as I always suffer when I'm invited to speak. When I was still actively teaching, I always had goosebumps each time I was preparing for my classes, always, without fail. Because when you are teaching, you are doing something that transforms your audience. So I'm going to try and touch those 6 areas. But I think the most robust of my engagement with you is going to come in when we are talking to each other, because engagement is when we begin to chart the pathways from here, where next do we go? Because again, as I'm telling you, you are not alone. There is a whole scientific committee that is out there that has been here before. So, we're talking about language policy. Is this where I start? No, actually, something happened. Why is it moving faster than I am? Okay, so I see. We're talking about language policy. And our national framework is derived from Section 6 of our Constitution. That recognizes 11, now 12 official languages. And it says something about them. It says we must develop them so that they achieve parity of esteem. Parity is that I actually should be speaking to you in my mother tongue. There could be 12 translation boxes there, interpreting boxes, interpreting to each one of you. I should be speaking in my mother tongue, comfortably, while you hear me comfortably in each of your mother tongues. That is parity of esteem. That has been achieved by the European Union. Each of those people speak in their mother tongue, and each of those audiences listen in their mother tongue, so that there is nothing that you miss. You hear everything, because no one is mediating in a language that you don't understand. So the development of our languages is a constitutional imperative. But sadly, English remains the dominant language And I'm going to problematize that. It's the dominant language because, again, here we are. I'm speaking to you in English, which means we still have a job to do. Derived from the Constitution is a various iterative acts that have been developed in order to bolster the intention of that Section 6 of the Constitution. The last act was the Official Languages Act of 2012, which compelled government departments to have language divisions that actually look after the official languages in that particular government department. And in 2020, the Department of Higher Education and Training developed and released the language policy for higher education institution that is operationalizing our work as we speak now at our universities. It requires that each institution must have its own language policy. And I'm very happy today that you have satisfied that requirement, because it is a policy requirement of the department that looks after all universities in the country. In this policy, the higher education, the language policy for public higher education institutions, there is something that is profound, that is highlighted in red, that it actually insists on. It says it is to promote and strengthen the use of all official languages across all functional domains. So in your teaching and learning, in your research, in your administration, in your communication, multilingualism must be enforced. And it explicates them, including wider communication. And it is consistent with the Constitution. So that's what the higher education policy requires you to do. And that must be articulated in your own institutional language policy. So you can imagine, today we are actually reflecting on the amount of work that lies ahead for each and every one of us. Our scholarship must reflect that. Our teaching and learning must reflect that. Our communication must reflect that. And we communicate in many ways. So as I was driving up, I saw a monolingual institution. Just by your symbolic signs. Monolingual. But if I want to receive my visitors and make them feel at home, especially for an institution that is steeped in the community that speaks the main languages here, it must be reflective of that. So that anyone who comes in here don't feel like a visitor in an institution that they spend 8 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours in. It must be inclusive. At UKZN, that was the first thing that we did. Change the signage, including the doors in the names in the signs on your door. If you are a dean, idini, lehead signs. So that you don't feel like a European dean. Yeah? Because that's where we learned. I spent all my training in Europe. And then I felt like an outsider in those institutions. And they really made it a point that I feel like one day I must go back home. Because they always ask me, when are you going home? When are you going back home? So Idin, part my department head, must figure lapa. So everything must be in isiZulu, or here for your purposes must be English, Siswati, and Isindebele, because you have declared that in your language policy. is consistent with the higher education language policy and is in sync with the Constitution. So no one is doing anything outside the law. We want to be African universities in Africa, not European universities that happen to be situated in the continent. I will come back to some of the issues. So, the policy framework must allow for us to develop responsive language policies. I know, when you do your first, it depends also on the leadership of the university. When you do your first policy, because the UKZN one is actually in its second revision. When you develop your first one, you're tentative because you don't want to offend too many people. Right? But people will be offended. They will, because where we are going, we are not going to be apologetic. Really. And I will show you how they were not being apologetic when they came. They had a clear vision that we actually want everyone one day to be speaking English. And are we not doing that? Where we have come from, really, it's like umuntu ophume ebalega ehlathini ejuja ibhubesi, and then you're on the road and you don't believe ukuthi yazi into engishele emuva le. That's where we are, and we want citizens that are proud to be wearing these rainbow colors, with no color sitting on the other. Each line taking its line. Ayikho kumele isuke la igibele phezulu kwamanye ama-line. Right? That's what we want. We thought of when we conceptualized the rainbow. That the black is not going to sit on the yellow. It will let the yellow stream. And the yellow will not sit on the white. It will let the white stream. We must really find our comfortable seats in this rainbow nation without feeling like somebody is sitting on you. You must sit. And that's what parity of esteem means. That's exactly what it means. And I'm not making that phrase up. It's in our Constitution. How did we get here? She actually said it. You took some of my words, young lady, when you spoke to us. Education was a lifelong learning activity. We didn't have schools. We didn't have specializations, A boy will be taught, the kind of 12 subjects that you teach in primary and high school. We were taught like that, but seamlessly. You will be taught farming, you will be taught dentistry, you will be taught medicine, as you grow up. It was a lifelong learning activity until you are a full and complete library. That's why there's an adage in Africa that when an old man dies, a library burns down. If you didn't know that adage, it is because you are a full, complex, multi-storied library. It was a lifelong activity. And then somebody came and said, okay, now I am going to design schools. And learning is going to be in this specific locality called a school. And we are going to split the hours into subject areas that we call disciplines now. But there's something tragic that happened. Learning in this new site of knowledge acquisition was only going to take place in a particular language. I grew up in the generation where when you walked into the school ground, you had to consciously switch off your mother tongue. because the grounds, the hallowed grounds, belonged to the English. There would be a class monitor appointed by a teacher to monitor those who speak in their mother tongue during school hours. But and you will be punished for speaking your mother tongue during school hours. I was that generation. Does anyone belong to that generation? We were punished for speaking our mother tongue. So the tragedy that happened then was that your tongue was metaphorically cut. It was no longer a tool to mediate complex science. The only language that could mediate mathematics, science, geography, etc., was the English language. Our African languages were proscribed from the school system, banned from these hallowed grounds. And they lost the ability to interface with mathematics, with science, with geography. Not because they couldn't, because no language is a scientific language, it's a mathematical language. There's no language that is mathematically more inclined than any other language. Any language can interface with any complex phenomenon. I mean, when we were hit by COVID in 2020, no one knew that the English could come up with a new word called social distancing. Prior to 2020, there was nothing like that. There was no compound in English called social distancing. Language is used to mediate anything new, novel, complex. So every language continues to intellectualize. It continues to learn how to abstract and define a new process. Right now, if you look at the English lexicon before the advent of chatbots, we have a litany of new words in the English lexicon. As a result of that technological advancement, every language, no matter how complex it is, continues to mediate new knowledge. So what happened in that history is that our languages lost the capacity to interface with science. And that's why we call that. I used to carry my flipper so that I don't get confused. We call it de-intellectualization. It's a new word in the literature. Our languages were de-intellectualized, actively de-intellectualized. They lost the capacity to operate in complex domains, stunting their ability to develop new lexicons and new vocabularies. So now we have to, because we are building these frameworks, these policies, we have to actively re-intellectualize these languages by bringing them back to the academy. In 1994, no one thought that we would be actually saying, no, Sifuni Swati Sibe University. No one, because it was a given thing. It was either Afrikaans or English. But now, we are re-intellectualizing this language. We're bringing them in the academy, in the knowledge production, knowledge creation, and knowledge dissemination spaces, so that we kick in that process of re-intellectualization, that process for them to seamlessly interface and discuss complex knowledge. And again, UKZN has led the way. That's why we started with the process of translating every abstract dissertation. And you know how we went about it? We actually made it compulsory. At UKZN, actually, I introduced the DR9B rule. At UKZN, you cannot graduate with your PhD without an isiZulu abstract right next to your English abstract. Actually, in my other talk, I quoted the rule, verbatim, DR9B rule. It is compulsory, and it's part of your submission process. You know, after the thesis has come back from the examiners, and you have inputted the final changes to the satisfaction of the supervisor, it comes to the language directorate that I headed. And we have a translation committee that actually sits weeks on end, because remember, this is a scientific abstract. Weeks on end to translate that abstract. And it's up to the student. You have to have a good lead time. If you're going to be graduating in April, you can't give us your abstract in February of that year. Because it's a process. There's terminology development. That terminology development has to go through Panzer processes of consultation, verification, and standardization. And then it comes back to the translator, who translate now using the terms that have been created in that subject area. And then we take it to the editor, and the editor satisfied that this translation abstract is now on point. And then it goes to the supervisor, who tells the student that it can now go to the thesis. It's a process. And you can write DR9 abstract process right now. You will see it's available on the internet, UKZN. What we were trying to show is that even isiZulu, given an opportunity, can interface with a however complex text it can be. That's the process of re-intellectualization. Because again, every language, as Chomsky said, has as complex a syntax as any other language. So there is no language that is inherently more complex than the other. Every language has a similar complexity. So we are re-intellectualizing African languages. And isiZulu in South Africa has already led the way, as Kiswahili has done in Tanzania and Chishona in Zimbabwe. So that's the process of re-intellectualization. The capacity for African languages to carry and convey all forms of knowledge in all spheres of life. We are taking them out of the ritualistic confinement of the colonial apartheid era, where they were confined. Angithi buthi mosiyashisa impepho la uqala khona ukukhuluma ngesiZulu. Because esikole asifunakali isiZulu. Uzoshisa impepho siyokhuluma nabo omkhulu nabo ogogo ngesiZulu. Qeda lapho uphindile esikolo, no, asingeni lapho isiZulu. We are re-intellectualizing these languages. But there is the complexity, there is the added complexity of 4IR that we have to grapple with, you know, because life is like that. It continues to throw in curveballs, and you have to be adaptable and grow and develop. So what does 4IR? So we've fixed the prescription, because now even here at UMP, you are now talking about bringing in Iswati, Nesindebele in the academy. That prescription is gone. DBE, basic education, is now actually rolling out what is called mother tongue-based bilingual education, following the Bella Act of 2024. So we have broken the prescription. We need for the languages to carry the capacity to interface with knowledge. Okay? We can't be clumsy about it. Really, we can't be clumsy about it. we have to be very, very careful, because we will produce a generation of untrained leaders of tomorrow. So we have to be very careful. That's why at UKZN we took all careful steps when we introduced isiZulu as a language of teaching and learning, research, innovation and science. And I wanted to add those two, because people thought, we're just teaching and learning. And then when the academics started writing academic articles in isiZulu, now teaching and learning and research. And then we said, okay, now these researchers are actually writing in isiZulu. They will need spelling checkers. They will need grammar checkers. And in 2016, we produced those technologies and launched them. And we have term banks. We have applications that carry terms into the classroom. You can actually actively, in a physics class, if you're hearing a term that that is not cognitively plausible to you, cognitively visible, it doesn't make sense, you can go to the app on your mobile phone and check that term. It will take you to the isiZulu equivalent, and you get the gloss. Actively in the classroom. We had to be intentional about that. That is the work that is ahead of you. If you want to bring isiSwati and isiNdebele in the classroom. But there is already a blueprint. There is already those that have done it before you. So you don't have to think that, we are shooting in the dark. No. And I'm going to talk about collaboration and synergy. So because of the clear gaps that exist, so you're not going to have terms, for instance, to describe a physics operation in Siswati, which means we have to sit down, create a process of terminology development, because you need those terms if you are going to be teaching physics in Siswati and isiNdebele. And by the way, again, these languages can be lumped. So you don't have to really develop some of these terms from scratch. Because remember, I've told you, isiZulu has a term bank. It even has an application. So for Nguni languages, like Siswati and isiNdebele, you already have terms to benchmark from. Again, you're not starting from scratch. So the work is not going to be as daunting as it was for us who started this in 2012. There is already exemplars. But we need to develop competent and usable technologies to close these language gaps that came as a result of de-intellectualization. Then we talk about multilingualism, the whole thing that frames this discussion. And I deliberately took from David Crystal, whom I met for the first time when I was in Cambridge. One of the foremost English scholars, which is why, again, you can be like, he didn't study anything but English all his life. At one time when I was at Cambridge, there was a series on time. So it studied in the sciences, natural sciences. What is time in science? And it cut across all faculties. What does each discipline see time as, conceptually? Went across philosophy, everything. And in linguistics, he is the one who gave us the lecture on time, the linguistic sense of time. So he didn't even have to study physics to come and tell us about time. He did it from his disciplinary understanding. It doesn't make your Siswati discipline less than any other discipline that is offered here at Mpumalanga. And I'm talking to her and every other language student or linguistic student or literary student. Your discipline is your choice. And once you have chosen that discipline, you want to be an expert and leave a footprint. When you retire and say, you see, this is what I contributed in my lifetime's work. So don't even listen to them. David Crystal He's still alive. He did linguistics all his life. This is what he says about multilingualism. Because again, you would think because he's English, they live in a monolingual world. No. Multilingualism is as natural as any human condition. And he says speaking 2 or more languages is the natural way of life 3/4 of the human race live. 3/4. Yes, there are some people who are born, like my great-grandmother. She spoke 1 language, Sizulu. She was monolingual. You're not monolingual because you speak English. She was monolingual. There are some people who will be raised and die as monolinguals. But we live in a I speak 6 languages. 6. 6. Including Norwegian, Nynorsk. Multilingualism is some of our natural phenomenon. So, to implement in practical ways, we need to dispense with monolingualism, which is not a strength, but a handicap. It's not me. It's David Crystal. Mina vele I shem yeb ngiphuma kaZulu kodwa I speak only English. Lapho fana nami. And by the way, your young sisters, your young brothers, they only speak some funny type of English. It's not even English, right? Come to think of it, because they are taught by an incompetent mother who can speak that particular language. Or a father who speaks it as a 6th or 7th language. It's not even English. And when I'm speaking like this, and I include myself, I am adding poor data in the English language. My data would not be used in any English teaching because my intonation is wrong. There are a lot of structural things that are wrong in my English. I'll give you one anecdote. I'm sorry, because it will add another 2-3 minutes in my prepared speech. I don't know, some of you know Wole Soyinka. Anyone knows Wole Soyinka? He's a celebrated African literary theorist from Nigeria. And the only literary laureate. You know what a laureate is? That means you won a Nobel Prize for writing in the English language. Right? A Nobel Prize. Which means you're actually a foremost literary author when you get a literary laureate. Wole Soyinka has written all his life. He's an author, poet, whatever. You just Google him if you want. At Harvard, there was a vacancy for an English professor. You're laughing already. And he applied. He fancied it. He was a literary laureate, recognized not by us, but by them. As a foremost English literary author, Professor Wole Soyinka, he fancies himself, and he applies for the job. He was not even shortlisted. The irony. So stop saying, hey, ngingumswati kodwa mina asengihlula. Then what are you going to be? What are you going to be? Really, on this land, what are you going to be? I'm not casting aspersions, but I'm just giving you an example. It is because no matter how good you are not as good as him. Because yena walungcela ebeleni. Uthe mayiqeda ukulungcela walfunza like you all his life. So, You need to advocate. So I'm no longer, I'm out of academic and I'm now advocating for multilingualism because there's advocates somewhere in the program. So monolingualism is not a strength, not by any stretch of imagination. And this is what I was very happy to see that you're reading Ngoki as well. It's what Ngoki says. English language instruction is a form of spiritual subjugation. Every time, and you might not see this, some of us are now, I used to love English. That's why I went to Cambridge. I used to love English. And I used to fancy myself that I was good. But nowadays, I get exhausted by the time I'm done talking. Like really exhausted. It is a silent burden. It is no matter how good you think you are, it's an albatross. And it's not me who's saying that. Okay, I'm saying it, but I am referencing big guys that came before me. So we need to decolonize, not the curriculum, but first ourselves. Disabuse ourselves of the notion that I am better if I speak English. You can access the world better if you speak English, but you are not better. There is nothing that is inherent in the English language that adds the quality into you present yourself. if you're brown, okay, in the scale of excellence, and white is excellent, and black is okay. Let me say black is excellence, and white is worse. So if you are brown, when you package yourself in the English language, you are not going to be black because you speak English or you've packaged yourself in the English. They will access the brownness. I hope you get the symbolism. English will make you access the world as you are, not as smarter. But be smart first, okay? Be smart first, and then you can present yourself as a smart person in the English language. And we are saying you can actually do that easily and seamlessly if you access epistemologies in your mother tongue. And epistemologies are always complex. Science is already complex. It doesn't need English to make it more complex. No. Science is already complex. You just need a language that you are good at to seamlessly interface with this complex epistemology. And we are saying we are doing our children and the future generation a favor as the Chinese recognized it, as the Germans, the Italians, everyone else in the world except us have not recognized that. We think that, no, they must learn English first and be good at it in order to come and learn science. That's a double burden. Because now they have to go through years and years of learning English and be competent and confident in it. And then they start learning. So maybe your second degree, third degree, so understanding how, budgeting, yeah, we need to budgeting. Yeah, let's budget. Guys, as long as start money, as you get older and you understand some of these concepts, you understand them better. You know why that delay? It's because you're trying to understand budget in English. Not. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I should be serious. But this is advocates, right? Let's go back to serious scholars. I don't know whether you know Achille Mbembe and his works. He said something that's so, and he has these very instructive epithets. He says colonialism rhymes with monolingualism. You are a colonialist, it doesn't matter who you are. In this country, okay, I live in this country. In this country, we have emerging colonialists called Zulus. They want us to be monolingual in this country. We must refuse. We are a rainbow. We are a rainbow. They must run in their line. We will run. 12 million, ne? 12, ne? And 800,000. Let them run in their lane. They mustn't run and run over other people's lanes. Okay. You don't know who I am, right? I didn't say that. But monolingualism is a curse. You are a colonialist if you want people to speak your own language, kuphela. It doesn't matter whether you have a different type, a different shade of skin. Asifuni futhi colonialism. Sikhathesi sidlulile lapha 94, 96 ngeconstitution sadlula lapha. Asiphindele emuva. We are not going to get some Zuluist to come and tell us that we must let's choose isiZulu ngoba sikhulunywa abantu abaningi. Hey, nibaningi vele. Sikhulumeni lapha enikhona. And we sinifihlela inhlanhla. Yes, because they will do well. But let the Swatis do the same. Let the Tswanas do the same. Because everyone must be competent, and language enables that process. Okay. So Achille says, colonialism rhymes with monolingualism. So we don't want people that advocate for monolingualism. And then of course, he throws in this anecdote. The hegemony of English is such that now, in order for me actually to press this argument, I have to speak it in English. I was with A. Yes, that's the irony of English. That's how hegemonic it is. And it has a telling effect because it means that other languages can say, hey, I want to say these things, but it will be effective in English. Or it will be heard by most people in English. So we end up accommodating it, even in spaces where we shouldn't be accommodating it, because it prevents other languages to take their seats. Therein lies the irony of making these arguments. We have to make them persuasively in English. Ngoba ngabe ngikhuluma ngesiZulu, ngabe ngithi uyadavuza kodwa phela nawe angithi usitshela ngesiZulu, why ungasitsheli ngeSiswati uma kuyinto ebalekile? So I have to choose English in order to make my point about English being a dominant and hegemonic language. Therein lies the irony. Okay, so I said the complexity. If I move with this, can I move with this thing? Because I really don't like spending the whole day in one point. Yeah, you're right. So in my other speech, I added the caveat of an evolving colonial edifice. It's evolving because it continues to innovate. And digitization is one of the things that the English enterprise has brought to our shores. And we have to very quickly digitize. But what are we still grappling with? We're still grappling with mundane building blocks. Now, so let's digitize. And since that digitize, here is AI. Because digitization is a precursor. That's the bane of our existence. That's really the bane of an African existence. But that's why I said opportunities. There are opportunities. Because in the past, when our elders walked, what can we do? We can drive. Right? We can't say, I'm a descendant of Umziligas. I must walk because this gentleman walked, I don't even know how many million kilometers. No. Where he walked, now I can fly, because now from Joburg to KZN is 50 minutes by flight, right? He took some 18 years. So there are some opportunities in some of these advances. So they might be staggering for us But we must actually look for opportunities and say, how can we develop our languages faster than if we didn't have this technology? So this is my friend, Konai. He says there is something called digital language death. And he says digitization presents that threat to some of the global languages. If your language is not existing in the digital infrastructure, it will have speakers, but it will not have digital citizens, what we call netizens. And if it's outside that infrastructure, that means no one is using it, which means it's a language that is spoken, but not a language that technology is being developed for. And just like Latin right now, right? It is there, but no one is using it, right? So we need to digitize and also quickly have digital competencies. Now come back to Sadila, because we are providing that. So the digitization threatens most of African languages, because most African languages are absent from that digital cyber infrastructure. And guess who dominates that? English dominates that world. So again, I mean, I'm sure you have your mobile phones. Every single application, every single technology in that application is predominantly English. You have the Chinese that are coming up with their own technologies and their applications. You have the South Koreans doing the same. But they are not serving any African languages. So we really have to, while we are still grappling with developing most of the things, the basic building blocks, your terminology, your glosses, your glossaries, your findable lexicons, you actually have to also step up and develop digital competencies. But there are basic things that you need to do. Basic things, like everyday functionality. Can you make it a point that when you are actually writing to a Siswati speaking person an email, write it in Siswati? Nothing, and this is, let's say you're writing a communique, write it in Siswati. It will have a digital footprint. When you are texting to your friend, I have a very good friend of mine, Otsamgele Khateb. If I want to know there's something wrong with him, he writes to me in English, a good morning, and I'm like, okay, you know, then, you know, we make it a point that we write to each other in our mother tongue. I don't know how many people in African language spaces have that culture. Because if you are not texting, emailing, and doing any other official business in your mother tongue, again, you are contributing to the paucity of findable data in your mother tongue. And if the digital infrastructure cannot find that data, nothing can be developed by way of technology in your mother tongue. So you don't even need a policy to tell you to do that. I didn't need a policy between myself and Khadev to tell us to do that. It can be just a practice. Just practice that. And if a department, you can practice that with your colleagues. For crying out loud, you're telling them that we are meeting at 2 o'clock. There is no decision there. Senate will not even question why upale emailing eSwati uti abantu abazohlangana na airport room go 2 o'clock ngeSwati. No one can question that. Right? But make it a practice. If we don't practice it, it will not happen. It's made worse because in a digital environment, you have to annotate your data so that it is findable. In the large language models, you don't have to annotate. As long as it exists, it will pick it up because it uses different types of networks. It uses what is called neural networks. If your data is not findable, that ChatGPT is not going to be more intelligent. It becomes intelligent as it trains on findable data. Previously, we used to do what is called NLP, structured data, natural language processes. We would structure, we would follow grammars, and we would actually go back to people that are studying a particular language like Siswati and say, what is the grammar of Siswati? We take that structure, the grammar, and develop an algorithm. And with that structured data, we can then develop a technology. Now, everything that is findable, using neural networks, the chatbots train themselves on. So it just needs the amount, the quantum of findable data, not the efficacy of the annotation or the structured data. Do you get the distinction? I think now I'm talking to linguists. You know, structured versus unstructured data. So now, as long as it can find something, it will train itself on it. So our task is actually simpler because we don't need a learned linguist to actually turn that findable data to a structured data so that a machine learning system can be developed. Now, LLMs are just picking up data, the quantum of data. It becomes poor if the data is small. It becomes cleverer if the data is bigger. And who has big data out there? Who has big data out there? English. Although I'm still producing poor data, it just looks at it and says, I can't make sense of this. It throws it away because my English is poor. But there is a lot of English data that is being produced on a daily basis, every day, out there. The newspapers are writing in English. Everything is being produced in the English language. There are terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of available English data. That's why English systems are much cleverer than our systems. Because English is a language that is findable. So, our kids, and I gave this example of my son. Our kids, my son was looking for my grandfather on the net. And he didn't find him. And says, Dad, guess what? Your father doesn't exist. Sorry, your grandfather doesn't exist. I thought I didn't understand what he meant. You know? But these kids, if they can't find it, it's not there. And where do you find information? In the net. And if it's not findable, it doesn't exist. So even your innovation, if you are not sharing it in platforms where it is findable, it doesn't exist. So we have to have principles. We develop data, and then we have to find ways of how these data sets can be findable. And data, I don't just mean lumps of sequences of words. I mean data. I mean, your own academic paper is data. If it's findable, you are now contributing to data that is findable. Structured and unstructured. Make your data available in your mother tongue. Because then that data is going to, and then of course the ability to raise active netizens. You really have to have digital skills, because where we are going, if you don't have those skills, really you are going to be outside the future world of work. You need to have those competencies. Nomsenzi is SWAT, nomsenzi is Ndebele. You have to have digital competencies, because the future world of work sits there in the cyber infrastructure. Okay, that's what is presented by the digital evolution and the context of 4IR. Then comes SADILA. I came from SADILA. I moved from UKZN to the South African Center for Digital Language Resources. And there we are funded by the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation to develop resources, and it's a range of resources to support all the 12 official languages. So we can develop a data set, and if you're a technologist, you give it the data, you develop a clever system. We can develop software, we can develop machine learning systems, automated. We have a Achumatu. If you didn't know, Achumatu is a technology. It's a machine learning tool LUT, that can translate in between all official languages. So you don't have to develop that technology. It's already there. It's available. It's findable. You can download it for free and translate between Siswati and English seamlessly. So that's what Sadila does. Okay? And now we have developed this platform. This platform has, if you just write Lumi links, you're going to land onto the platform. It has all the institutions, all the 26 universities. And in that page, you find all the 26 universities, and if you go to a specific university, you will find the technologies that each university has made available. If it's a term bank, if it's a data set, if it's a project. Some universities haven't, we're still negotiating the MOUs on how to frame our collaboration so that the data can be on this platform. But we want for every technology, every data set to be sitting in this platform. It also includes PANSALP, DSAC, because DSAC has developed a lot of terminology, and DBE. So it's a platform that we launched at TUT at the end of last year. It is a central repository that aggregates and stores every data set and or technology, and it is maintained at the hub at Sadila at the Northwest University in Potchefstroom campus. And it has reusable data that is compatible and technologies that are compatible with mobile phones. So you can actually use your phone to access some of the technologies. In the context of this, we have the SWIP project that we launched in September last year. And we had the king of the Amandebele, if you know him, at UNISA, and we launched the Sadila Wikipedia PANSALP project that sought to train, remember we spoke about digital netizens, train people with digital capacity, train people to create findable data on Wikipedia. They are called wikis. So Wikipedia has a structured set of becoming an editor and contributing content on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is like your old type of encyclopedia. You know, encyclopedias were these big books. They are, if you imagine a dictionary, something beyond the dictionary. You know, that has one entry that is 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. In the Wikipedia, you imagine it's a massive encyclopedia in multiple languages of the world. Guess what? In those multiple languages of the world, by September 2023, isiNdebele was not part of Wikipedia. It was not a language in the Wikipedia. So from that partnership between Sadila, Wikipedia, and PANSALP, we have managed to train 30 editors that contribute to the Wikipedia, and we have now over 140 articles in Wikipedia. Shine Zandapel. So Wikipedia, as an institution, when languages are actually presenting their content, they have an incubation phase. You can be incubated for up to 5, 6, 8, 10 years. It took us, since 2023, we became a full-fledged Wikipedian. I'm saying we because that was our project, but it's you because it's an isiNdebele language. In February of this year. It can take you 5, up to 10 years, but it took us just under 2 years to be a full-fledged language on Wikipedia. Now, it means if you have a brilliant, I wanted to say something, if you have a brilliant guy somewhere at MIT, and they want to develop a clever system with a small amount of data for an unrecognizable language, they can find the data in isiNdebele, and they can develop that technology, novel technology in isiNdebele. That is the biggest thing when you are looking at language and findable data and what we can do on our own at UMP. If you have findable data that is sitting out there, a lot can be done with that data than if that data is not there at all. So the biggest contribution, the biggest impetus is for us to develop data sets. And I have told it, make it a culture in a department or individual as a lecturer when you're talking to your own students. Speak in the languages that the students speak. Develop the culture of developing data sets, no matter how small. Angisakhulumi-ke if the assignments are coming in mother tongue, if the dissertations are coming in mother tongue, if PhDs are coming in mother tongue, you can imagine how much we're scaling, not just the data, but the quality of that data, because it's academic language. Why we included PANSALB in this partnership, because SWIP stands for SADILA, Wikipedia, and PANSALB. We included PANSALB because PANSALB has to mediate, has to moderate the quality of the language and the terminology. In an article, in an academic article, everything must be mediated. It must be standard. Because when these technologies are being developed, we don't want them to be developed on tsotsital. Not casting aspersions on tsotsital, but we don't want people to say, how is tsotsaraban lespo? Let's develop a technology. It must be real and quality data, right? That's why we have PANSALB there in that partnership, to mediate, to moderate quality. Okay. But that's where SWIP is. SWIP is a project, it's a program at SADILA. If you want to be part of that program, please go to info@sadila and send in your request. The SWIP team is such an active team that they will plan, if not this year, they will plan a workshop for UMP next year. They will come on campus, they will train thousands of your Siswati, Sindebele speakers. And we do it with our money. You don't have to pay a cent. We can make you even to sleep in your own four-star hotel that you have not slept in since inauguration in 2022. I'm advocating, okay? So now, what is happening with Siswati, because this program has gone so well, because Wikipedia, remember Wikipedia is a global enterprise. This program has gone so well, and we targeted, we didn't go with isiZulu, by the way. For obvious reasons, I didn't want to be, you know. Firstly. Secondly, we wanted to go with a small language. And it was easy to identify Sindebele because it was not even there on Wikipedia. But now we are working with Siswati. And within our 5-year strategy at SADILA, we want SADILA to be one of those. Can I point with this? I can't point. Now see that word Clarin at the corner there. Oh, there, yeah, Clarin. Clarin is a European infrastructure network. SADILA is going to be an African equivalent of Clarin. And we are expanding into Siswati in Swaziland. And we have already had a SWIP workshop there in Swaziland. Okay. That's good. Just info, or you send me an email. I'll send it to the team. So, okay, so we can start with, but you see, we wanted to go to Swaziland because they speak the language that we speak here, and what we grow there is already growing in South Africa. But of course, we can be tribalistic and start with Siswati here and develop another Nguni language. I wanted to target. It was easy to motivate because it speaks to our African strategy. African expansion strategy. But yes, we will piggyback on what you are also doing here. It is very easy to grow that. What we want, and it's consistent with a lot of things. So this Clarin is a knowledge center. It will be consistent with what DSTI is driving, open science. And we are going to be driving what we call digital language resources that are available globally. Those are the institutions that are already working with us within the context of Clarin. So that's where we're taking Isindebele, it's already there. We are bringing Siswati into that global infrastructure. So again, I wanted to share this because this is the work that is on the ground, that there is already international collaboration that is driven by SADILA, but we need to, now that we have this very wonderful policy, we need to work together. You are not starting from scratch. You are just quickly jumping onto the shoulders of giants, and I'm not saying SADILA is a giant, but continue ongoing work, and you are going to run where your grandfathers walked. You are going to fly where your grandfathers walked. Yeah, speaking of Umziligas. So, we need to break down silos. It mustn't be okwenzakala la akwaziwa umuntu. Not even Bombela, sorry, Siabuso knows what you are doing here. No. And I was very happy to see that, you are on intercampus as well. So let us work together. Silos are selfish, you will have, already the digital divide is widening because while advances in technology and innovation are growing, Tina si busy, Sloke si sebenza in silos. It shouldn't be the case. What UKZN has done must be shared. If it's a methodology, take that blueprint, take that template, and then you run with the framework. If it's a technology, take that technology. You don't have to start from scratch. Let us break the silos and work creatively. Even the departments, DBE, DSAC, and everyone else must actually work together so that we can fly where we would have walked previously. I can't overemphasize the idea of institutional collaboration. Institutional competition, I know you want to report something to DHEAD, you want to report something to USAF, you want to report to have been the first to do X, Y, and Z. It's institutional competition that doesn't take us anywhere. If you want to walk fast, you do it alone. But if you want to go far, you do it collaboratively. So let's do it collaboratively, and together we can achieve what I want to conclude with here, digital accent. And again, I bring my friend Kodai. Digital accent is whereby a language increasingly acquires digital functions and prestige, but most importantly, its speakers acquire digital skills. Thank you. I'll take questions if there are any. Thank you. Okay.
Siyabonga ngepresentation ya Prof.
Thank you, Siso.
Ngiyawuthemba sitholile lwati ngemultilingualism, lulwimi nengi kumbe bulwimi nangekuthuthukiswa kwetilwimi tema-Afrika kumbe tilwimi tethu tesindebele nesiswati in the context of UMP. Sivile Prof ukuthi uyasikhuthata ngekuthi singathatheli past ilwimi tethu singadikhobosi, as you have made an example with one of the presenters ukuthi angafili ngathi ungena emgodzini makakhuluma ilwimi lwakhe. She must be confident and walk tall. Siyabonga nangokusatisa ngesadila, siyajabula ngoba isadila iSwift ike yafika la e-UMP yathatha ama-students e-masters ne-honors for both Siswati and Isindebele, and they were developing their stories and whatever of their interest. Siyabonga, siyajabula kakhulu. Siyabonga noma ngendi vote of thanks but ke siyabonga kakhulu uprof uvule emehlo ethu nekubaluleka bulwimi in the context of our university. Singathuthukisi lulwimi lunye. We have to be multilingual and talk all the languages. It's not a sin. We shouldn't be feeling undermined if you talk your language. That is you. Asiphinzeni ke simshayele tandla professor. Okay, lesikhathi ke isikhathi semibuto, comments and the responses from Prof. If you have any question, you are now allowed to raise up your hand and someone will come to you. You indicate your question. I'll be noting those who have questions. Yes.
Is this on? Oh, thanks. I would like to thank Prof for the insightful presentation. I only have 2 questions directed to him.
My pen is not writing.
The first question, Prof, what is your view about the establishment of the new university by the Afrikaners? That is my first question. The second one, you spoke about de-intellectualization. Now, during your intellectualization process at UKZN, has there been any impact whilst you are implementing the language policy on the throughput of your students? Thank you.
Okay, we will note all the questions, then Prof will respond to all of them. Students are free to ask questions as well. You are part of this discussion. Yes, Dr. Prof.
Thank you. Great presentation, Prof. I would sit here and listen to you the whole day. So yeah, mine is the short one really. You know, you spoke about colonization being rhyme with monolingualism. So in your view, how do you suggest society can deal with that kind of attitude? I mean, you gave an example of Zulus. I mean, and so it sort of just kept me thinking. You know, what do you think should be the approach in a way? You know, alleviating that type of an attitude. Thanks.
At the back, I will allow 5 questions from this round. That's the third one.
It was a good presentation by Prof. Thank you. Tulela Ingwane. My question is, I heard you talking about Sadila Swift coming to campus taking a student. Does it take on a student only, or it take any student? My other question is, are you required to study isiNdebele, or it takes any person who is able to talk isiNdebele? Thank you.
The next question. You are noted, you are noted.
Thank you for the opportunity. Prof, I just wanted to know what best strategies can we use to ensure that all 12 official languages are are noted specifically with regards to the sign language in the higher education or in the society as a whole?
Thank you.
Okay.
And there was a hand that side, at the back, and Likwa, you will be the fifth one for this round. At the back.
Okay, ake ngithome ngokulochisa be ngithokoze ikulumo esiyitholileko ebuya ku professor. Njengomuntu osemkhakheni weze science, ngiba ukubuza can I just ask in terms of the developments that are currently existing for any possibilities that might be present for our African languages to be used, more especially to educate whoever in his or her own language. How far are they with those processes? Are these processes that he just presented only linked to those who just want to apply our African languages in daily life communications? Or are they also focusing on applying the similar methods in terms of STEM stream? Ngiyathokoza.
Siyabonga. Likwa, there's one more question, Prof.
Oh.
Over to you, Likwa.
Sanibonani futhi. I want to ask something, like, I'm speaking for Tina Song that we are doing e-languages. Most of us who are under e-languages were facing issues with e-funding. Most of my bursaries, they do not fund my students that are doing language. We even did try my bursaries under Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, but they said they just don't fund students who are doing languages. We want to ask if there are any bursaries that we can apply for maybe next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will give the opportunity to Prof if he is ready.
Yeah, okay,
Over
yes,
to you,
Evans.
Prof.
Yeah, okay. Shall I, do I get the permission to answer while I'm seated? Because it's rude sometimes, or in some cultures. Thank you very much, colleagues, for the questions. And I will take them in turn. The first one, if you have had one of our foremost scholars, Kwesi Kwapra, speak, he speaks of 3 linguistic miracles globally. He says one is Hebrew, the second is Bahasa, and the third one is Afrikaans. And he says these languages were obsolete at one point, or non-existent, but became one of the foremost global languages that could function in any domain, from kindergarten to university. So he calls them linguistic miracles. And you know, each time I hear that characterization or read that characterization, there are 2 things that occur to me. First, Afrikaans is a language next door to us, one of the 12 official languages We know that it is a kitchen variety that moved into the language that it is today. And you're asking me about their effort in developing or building a university and what my reaction is to that. I was a keynote speaker. I was telling Atenkos that I was a keynote speaker at LSSA on Tuesday. And in one of my slides, I had a very provocative premise that is observed from the history of civilization, that any civilization in the world is undergirded by a language. Any. The Roman civilization, the Greek civilization, the English global domination was very clear. You want to undergird your civilization on a specific language. In 1908, students of history will know, in 1908, D.F. Malan declared that in order for white people in this country to develop, we must develop Afrikaans as a language of teaching, as a language of research, as a language of the law. Let us develop Afrikaans. With that, or together with that, we will lift the Afrikaner in this country. 1908. They were very clear. Just like other civilizations before them. Very clear. Undergird language, you will drive and develop and civilize the people that speak that language. In 1994, the dawn of a new civilization, what did we do? We were very clear. We will premise our new dawn with 11 official language. Now, were we clear what we wanted to do? Were we clear? Did we know what it meant? Yes. Vele, you have to undergird. It has to be right there if you want to bring in a new dawn of civilization. You premise it on the language, but we premised it on 11, now 12 languages. What needed to follow? We needed to be intentional. We needed to be deliberate. We needed to put will to spanner and start working. But 30 years on, we have a litany of policies. More policies than the work to show for those policies. So, going back to the question, I admire what they're doing. Because that means that vision is still very clear. To them, it's still very clear. They're not going to take us along because we are not clear, because we are dithering. No. Their 1908 vision is still very clear. So, to answer that question, I totally admire what they're doing. I really do. You can imagine if we had an isiZulu university, Siswati University, Chitsonga, Venda, and actually we had them, but we are happy to continue with them as European universities in our own regions. Because what do we want? We want international recognition than first and foremost our own. Remember I said, you can be the best and then package yourself for the world. But we wanted to match the world with all our mediocrity. We didn't focus on the quality of ourselves before we sold ourselves to the universe. And look at, I don't want to sound xenophobic. I think I'm going to sound xenophobic. No, I'm not going to go there. No. Look, okay, we call them expatriates. Our space is dominated by leading thinkers that come from elsewhere than leading thinkers that have evolved from within us. Can I repeat that? Yeah. Our leading thinkers, the foremost thinkers. Look at what happened at Stellenbosch, that satellite route, first in the world. The professor is Italian. So, we have internationalized our university before we do the hard work of bringing quality from within and then internationalize that quality. So, they're doing very well. Because if they were to go with us, yeah, I wonder. So the good thing, the lesson to be learned is that they are keeping us under pressure to just learn from next door. Kanti why? Kanti sihlushwa yini ngempela sihlushwa yini ukuthi sifunde isingesi kangaka? Sihlulwa ukufunda. Mina actually, if all our universities were monolingual Afrikaans, say after 2001, I'll be very happy. Because then at least we're coming closer home. But we are international. But the international experts are actually international. They are not local. So there is my response to that. Did re-intellectualization at UK didn't have impact? So what? Yeah, okay. So if you know Mahoba, our VC, he was a medical scientist trained at Cambridge. He was a result-oriented guy, evidence-based. So when we actually did the 2012 language policy, he said, I will find, he was very ruthless about it. And sometimes you need to be ruthless about an idea. Very ruthless about it. Because we had very good academics who said, no, if you're bringing in isiZulu to the academy, I'm leaving. And he said, goodbye. Yeah, and they left, But he said to us, I want to see this work. Otherwise, I will close it and I will bring them back. It's easy. You say incentivize and bring them back. But what did we do? We also were very strategic. We went to the so-called killer modules. Accounting was one of them. Yes. We started with the first terminology that we did and the glossaries that we did were in accounting. And the first bilingual tutorials were in accounting. And the following year, at the second University Language Board meeting, we produced the results. There was evidence that it works. And we drove it from there. So, yes, there was evidence that these so-called killer modules were no longer killing our kids anymore. Because, honestly, and you even put it in your reporting that it's a killer module. And who is it killing? Our own children, our own future. So we targeted the so-called killer modules, and it worked. And I'm very happy to report that. So how do we destroy monolingualism? It's simple in Africa. By the way, there is research that your best diplomats in the world are multilingual. Kwesi Pra, I hope you also follow him. Kwesi Pra once said, if I speak your language, I cannot disrespect you. And look at how we respect the English. Because we speak their language every day, eh? Good afternoon, ma'am. Colleagues, let us welcome our colleagues. We all change. And it's a simple adage. If I speak your language, I can't disrespect you. So if I speak isiZulu and you're an isiZulu speaker, and already we have found each other. So multilingualism is an asset in many ways. Because it says, I see you. When I actually speak in your language, it says, I see you. I see you. When you say, ahe, in Setswana, you know, you can't even translate it, actually. You know, you can't even translate it into English. Yeah. So, when I speak your language, already I have respected you to the extent that I'm saying, come over this side. We are no longer strangers to each other. I'm bringing you over. Let's cross the line and be here together. You know, if I disparage your language, I will never respect you. Abala lento khuluma amaZulu ukuthi ulimi lwenyoni. Yayis? Yeah. Abala nomuntu akafuna ukulifunda ulimi lwakho, they will never make an effort to learn your language. Because already they think you're seeing like a bird. You know? But once wacula yena qala, once wakhuluma ulimi lwakho akwazi ukukubiza ngokuthi uyinyoni. Because siyacula na ngithi. So multilingualism is the best strategy of killing once and for all. How do we normalize that? So what we are doing with DBE, we want to involve AI in classroom language identification. So that, you know, you have the analytics already for the teacher. As the teacher, Ogoti, the kids in my classroom, there are 8 languages. And in these 8 languages, these kids have mothers that speak Sebedi, Xhosa, isiNdebele, Xitsonga. If you know the linguistic composition of your classroom, you teach it differently than the assumption that, 1, they speak English, 2, they will understand my language. So why won't in attitude gatish or forget sanbona? And England is a so I'm vendor. It's open LinkedIn. So already that kid is already sitting in the corner. So they're sitting in the corner because they don't share the language with the teacher. And they're sitting in the corner because vele uhlele umqina ngesingesi. Double whammy. Double whammy. You know, but if you practice it in the classroom, like they attempted to do here. Did you hear the TVC and our able chair of the committee? If you do that, and I'm sitting here, I feel affirmed. I feel like, oh, I belong here. Actually, I'm happy because you have greeted me in my mother tongue. I feel affirmed, and we make that a culture of South African society. Because we actually put it out there to the world that we actually affirm 12 languages. Why don't we practice it? Let's do that. Because that way, we will know that, no, we actually are a monolingual society first. And then we add Isingesi by choice. Not to feel like we are monolingual and maybe we choose multilingual. No. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. We are multilingual first. And soon I choose to go to Kule or Kulmele Singesako. As Okrumanuman. It must be the norm that we are multilingual. And then we happen to also speak Isingesi as within the multilingual context. So I really like the adage. If I speak your language, and I think I said this on my LinkedIn as well, that African Union must declare African languages. Because when you declare them, you're saying, we are this. Have you noticed that English, or the English, don't apologize? They don't. Because they know the intention behind themselves. But Tina Sazangata has the intention yet. The intention yet is to make ourselves comfortable in our own skins. Let us declare that, Pella. Can this Let us declare that. And when we declare it, then we practice it. So I sit in the AU Commission. And we, so many considerations. But we have declared English, French, Portuguese, Kiswahili, and Arabic as the official languages of the AU. And isiZulu, I'll lie. The other two languages that we have declared as, what are they declared as? It escapes me the word, the phrase they use. It will come. Declared, that's the intention. But we are not just those 5 languages that have vestiges of colonialism. We are Africa has 2,000 languages. 2,000. Nigeria alone has over 200 languages. Yeah. So how do you just declare one? Just declare multilingualism. That's the easiest way. Because in my environment, I will speak isiZulu and speak isiXhosa and speak Chivenda, because I happen to have a Chivenda grandmother and Chitonga great-grandfather, and then isiZulu mom and Ndebele father. So just declare multilingualism. How the complexity weaves itself into the society is none of your business. Because once you start declaring, you're actually saying some of the lines must be thicker, some of them must be small. You look at this actually, I look at it every day and I'm thinking, okay, so who is this and who is this? Okay, and I'm also, maybe it shows you that I'm also a communist, so I like things equal. Sadela's sweep, no. It doesn't target only students, no honors or master's students. It targets everyone who wants to actively contribute content on the wikis. I'll give you an example. There are some workshops where we have just gone and the only participants are authors. Authors, some of them non-tutored authors. Somebody who is just a writer and some of them imbong, like you know. And if you are happy to have your content in the wiki pages, then we actually train you on how to be a wiki editor, because you have to be trained to be a wiki editor. So we don't target structured programs within an institution. We target people that have the capacity, that are enthusiastic, and they don't have to be language people, because we want scientists to contribute content in the language that they're comfortable with. So it's not linguistic driven. It's driven by interest, that I want my language. The person who is doing Chitsonga, Vukosi, is an AI expert. AI, artificial intelligence. Nothing to do with languages. But he's driving language the most in this country, better than, okay. So no, it's not targeted at best strategies for multilingualism. So SASL, South African Sign Language, was declared late last year. Well, we knew the intention before that. It's SADILA. So SADILA is funded, and the way we are funded, every funding stream is linked to a specific activity with a specific outcome. So when we knew that South African Sign Language was coming to the stream, we put a business case to DSTI that can we have money to develop resources for SASL. We got that money for those who are working in the SASL space. We got the money, but we soon realized that while it has been declared as a language, it doesn't have a standard version. And so now the communities, the societies that make up the deaf society in South Africa are working to standardize the orthography, the signs that are used to mediate learning. So they are busy with that. And it's a process, it was a process. So first they had to develop a commission, and then now they're developing standards. And once the standards are in place, then we are going to start helping them to develop data, i.e. text, which is not text, but a sign bank. So we have a proposal. Stellenbosch University, working with Deaf South Africa, have been funded by SADILA to initiate the work on the sign bank, which is your corpus in any other language. So the sign bank, and this sign bank is going to be an open source sign bank that is available for every school, every university that is teaching in sign language, so that they use a standard variety of South African Sign Language. Because they soon discovered that there were dialectal variations, no, not dialectal, regional variations of South African Sign Language. It's not like English that is the same across. There are variations in South Africa, regional variations. So they are working very hard to develop a standard, and then we're going to develop a term bank, a sign bank. Science. I didn't quite get the question on science, but I want to assume that you are saying, do we have African languages in STEM? Again, at LSSA, I said, language is not like a jacket that you put on. And then we get to a meeting and you take it off. Right? I'll let that sink. Language is carried throughout every single space, every single discipline. I know that scientists always say, no, but mathematics is not linked to any specific language. Oh, yes, it is. So, we want for African languages, and all languages for that matter, because Italian is in mathematics, and Chinese is in geography, and Norwegian is in space science. Every language to be in every scientific discipline. There is no hallowed ground in science that belongs only to English. Nothing whatsoever. The Russians wouldn't have gone to space if that was the preserve of English. They wouldn't. If we start thinking that way, that even the Russians did go to space, that anyone, we could be sending our own Mtuba spaceships. Yes, Mtuba. Any language has the capacity to mediate any subject. We just have to be intentional about it. So STEM, put an A in the middle and call it STEAM, because the arts are right there in that STEM. Okay, shall I repeat that? In the STEM, insert the A for the arts and call it STEAM. Because when you are in the STEM, whether you're doing engineering, you're still a Xhosa engineer. It's just that you're functioning in English. But you're still a Xhosa engineer. Right? So you will never take out your language and say, ngoba sengene lab manje ngishiya ngaphandle isiZulu. No. You take your language everywhere. And we're saying occupy every knowledge space in your mother tongue. It makes it easy. Because you start from the familiar, from that which you know. I didn't know who asked the question, but I think now I've located him because he's nodding furiously at me. So yeah, and we have a program at SADILA called Digital Humanities. In Digital Humanities, Digital Humanities is inherently a multidisciplinary methodology. you are using humanities and other knowledge spaces to mediate the science. So if you, and if you go to, I hope when I say go and type, you're actually typing so that you can verify whether it's working, and I can tell you how it can work. So if you go to SADILA and say DH Colloquium Series, you will find all the colloquiums. They are recorded and stored for retrievability. You will see the subject areas that we are discussing there. It spans across disciplines. Please do go there, because there's a lot of information in those colloquium series. Funding, I think that was the last one. Yes, she was talking about how they can get funding for. So, I know I have grown. I grew up in the subject area, and I know our students always cry, we're not getting bursaries, we're not getting funding. Even African language researchers know that it is very difficult to attract funding. But again, now that we are working in multidisciplinary environment, and digital humanities again is that kind of a multidisciplinary space where you can bring language and computation, where you can bring in language and data is a currency. Data is valuable. In today's scheme of things, if you have data, you are so rich. And you know how to manage that data and make that data findable, you are going to partner with anyone, an engineer, a computer scientist, a computational linguist. You are going to partner with anyone to develop novel systems. Because remember, LLMs are developed on the basis of language. The current dominant languages are English for Silicon Valley, and Mandarin for DeepSeek. Where are African languages? You guys are sitting there. So LLMs are the future. In fact, LLMs are driving AI innovation. So let us actually work hard on looking at our languages as repositories. And from our African languages, design projects. There can be data generation, like the SWIP. There could be data generating projects. There could be data management, data analytics. You need to think that way, multidisciplinary, in order for you to be an active citizen of the research community. We cannot continue navel gazing, looking at isiSwati as a localized language. Look at it as cross-disciplinary, as what you can do with the STEM people with isiSwati. Look at what we can do with the computational people. Look at what we can do with engineers, etc. So we need to look at our disciplines in the context of the digitization, 4IR, AI, and large language models. In terms of funding, at SADILA, see, again, you really need to actually go to the SADILA website. At SADILA, we have open calls, 2 open calls per year, right? 2 open calls. Beginning of the year, first quarter of the year, and last quarter of the year. In those open calls, we want any novel project, any, as long as there is going to be a proof of concept. So again, the scholarship is no longer, I am doing this as an academic form of satiation. No? What, then what? Ask yourself all the time, then what? Then what? If you answer that question, that's innovation. That's novelty. That's something new. That's something that you can share with the world. If you go to the open calls and you can give us the answer to the then what on what you are doing, you're going to be funded. So everything that you're doing, everything, then what? Okay? Ningzwil? But that goes for everyone, because if you are a lecturer and you are actually developing like I said, like I encouraged for mundane cultural things within your own program, if you are developing a specialized resource, let's say it's actually saying, in my classroom I have 4 languages. I am developing a multilingual pedagogy, how we transverse and translanguage in my subject area. And you can actually use that recording, map it on a text database, and then start mapping where the areas where the students translanguage, move from one language for sense mediation or sense disambiguation. And you want to automate that. We are your customer. We will fund you for that. Because that means you are developing a teaching framework or a teaching instrument for a multilingual class to mediate multilingual learning. Okay, so you can actually, if you ask, okay, I'm doing this, then what? If you ask that question, then what? If you say, mina ngifike class lami, ngifika ngikale ngenze kanje, then what? Problematize that and make it a project. We will fund that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for the responses, and I believe that attendees are satisfied with the feedback. And we move on to the next item. The next item will be rendered by Waruna Mobeng and is based on poetic redemption in Inkondlo yesiSwati. Over to you, Waruna. Asimshayele ntandla aseta.
Anginibingelele nonke namhla emini. Lo membi kwenu nguWaruna wakamobeng, umfundzi wesiSwati, intfombi yekutsabuka eSwatini. Ngiyatiqhenya ngebuve bami. NgilisWati. Inkondlo yami namhla ithi buve bami. Thine singemaswati lamahle. Kuthiwa singemaswati, kuthiwa singemalangeni. Labanye bathi siyinyoni yebukhosi. Thine singemaswati lamahle. Singemaswati lanemasiko. Thine singemaswati latigcabha ngebuve babo. Ngetinswiba tabo letibovu enhloko, tinswiba letingagcoki nanobe ngabe ngumuntu, nanobe ngabe ngubani, ngumuntu katane. Sisho ngelulwimi lwethu lolunothile, lolubhala thine singemaswati lamahle. Kuthi mangigiye mangikhuluma ngebuve bami, kuthi mangigiye nangikhuluma ngemvelaphi yami. Kuthi mangigiye mangikhuluma ngemasiko ami. Tinyawo tami ngethwale, ngcondvo yami ngikhumbute, ngoba wena uthi ngingubani na. Ngobe mine kuthi mangigiye ngikhulume ngebuve bami. Phela mina ngingukhosi, Dlamini, wena wekunene, wena waphakathi, wena lowacedza libombo ngekuhlehletela. Samukete sinembova kumalangeni, sithi sibapha sibe sibadlubulisa. Angicedwa. Ngiyabonga.
Asiphinzeni simshayele tandla Waruna. Siyabonga ngenkondlo yesiSwati. Sitawundlulela emavini ekubonga bese siwashaya ngesivinini lesikhulu. Lilanga libe lidze kakhulu. Okay, sitawubonga wekucala sitawubonga Vuyo Mahlangu losethulele imbongi imbongi yesindebele. Lo bhale ngesindebele asitshela ngesi khongambiso nolwazi. Nalokunye siyabonga kakhulu Vuyo. Sibonge Angel Moleshiwe losethulele folklore yesindebele temlomo. Siyabonga waphakamisa emagabazi esindebele bodokotela Esther Mahlangu nalabanye. Siyabonga sesi uchubeke wende njalo. Sibonge ku-Athi Nkosi i-colleague losethulele i-keynote speaker Prof Langa lo executive director yeSadila Northwest University. I was fortunate to work with Professor asangu chairperson we USAF, a community of practice for African languages. Lo bekasikhuthaza ngekuthuthukiswa kwema language policies njengoba namhla sinje si-UMP sine language policy. Ngibonge Prof Langa losethulele ngekeynote yanamuhla asethulela ngekubaluleka kwe-multilingualism kumbe bulwimi nengi kuthi uma ngabe singa-implementi i-multilingualism at our university. Uprofessor Makalela uthite we are implementing a linguistic apartheid. Lokusho ukuthi we have to redress that and ensure that we implement multilingualism across the 3 pillars of the university in teaching and learning, engagement and research. Kunyendigela kukhulumile Prof Langa sitivele ukuthi we need to have one language policy for the university, one multilingualism, though isingisi kusangiso lesi international language, but singadikhobosi ngema languages ethu. Waqhubeka Prof Langa nokuthi ma languages ethu abe digitalized, singawabhali nje aphelele lapho, abe digitalized. Si consider ne Sadila to capture all our languages. Ngiyati ukuthi ngiqale emkhathini labanye ngababali ngisatababala. Sibonge ku Waruna losanza kusethulela inkondlo yesiSwati. Siyabonga Waruna. Siyabonga ukuthi bafunzi niyaluthanza lulwimi lwenu andikhobosi. Sinitshele within a short space of time kepha nidilungiselele ngokuthi niyaluthanza lolu lwimi. Anichilitwa ngumuntu. Bese ke ngibonga iDVC for teaching and learning lesikuthatile who acknowledged UMP as an African university nokuthi we need to transform our curriculum. The importance of our language policy as it has been endorsed. It's our policy, it's not only for a certain group of people. We need ownership of that policy and ensure that we implement it accordingly. It shouldn't be just a policy. We need to know ourselves, know our identity as African people. Ugcizelele lapho uDVC. Sibuye sibonge nalikwa losethulele inkulumo ngemvelaphi yakho. As individuals we belong to different languages. Ngilo naloyo angadikhobosi ngemvelaphi yakhe, ungumvenda, ungumtsonga, whoever nanobe AUMP. For now we are still focusing on the 2 African languages lokusindebele nesiswati. Akusho ukuthi lulwimi lwakho so ulithathela phansi. Bhala nje tinkondlo ngelwimi lwakho ukhona la UMP. Sibonge Dr. Madiope losetulele i-purpose ukuthi kungani sihlangene kule setting le. Siyabonga kakhulu Dr. was introducela ne-language policy, wasiphakamisela ne-task team lebe isebenta nge-language policy. Siyawabonga kakhulu colleagues. In absentia kuna Dr. Lubisi naye lobeka ingcenye yethu kepha-ke sick leave for now. Naye siyambonga in absentia. Wagcizelela ne-issue of multilingualism in our institution as an imperative. The example of the multilingualism is our national anthem. If you don't understand what it means, our national anthem doesn't cater for one language but for different languages. That is multilingualism. Siyabonga sibashayile ntandla. Bese ke ngindlulisa naku kune evaluation form that you will receive in your email. You are requested to fill it in accordingly. It's a request. Secondly, these are announcements. Students, they have a different saving point. You will be directed outside. Next to the auditorium is only for staff members. Students will be directed accordingly.
Students are going to get tickets, but the ones remaining here, staff left outside.
Okay. Okay, for a point of correction, students are requested to remain here. You will be directed from there. Staff, you will be served next to the auditorium. Is that